This is going to be a video about my 2020 finishes. In total, I had a whopping 49 finishes. I was able to bust out another one last night. So I'm going to be going in order. I don't write down specifics as in when I started it. I only write down when I finish it during the year. I do not keep track in any sort of book or journal. I just keep a Word document on my computer and I go in and update it every time I have a finish. If you are watching this and are interested in any of the fabrics or threads or anything, just leave a comment down below and I can go and get any specifics on anything on my Instagram. Or you can just go and look there, just scroll through all my posts. Because when I do start a pattern, I do put all the specifics on Instagram. So let's start with January. In January, I only had one finish. I'm going to insert a picture here. This is Always Flowers sampler from Stitches Through the Years. You can get this off of 1884 Stitchery. I carry most of her designs. And this was for a Stitcher's Coven Love Spell Exchange. You can go on to Facebook and join the Stitcher's Coven Facebook group. Really like stitching it. It came out really cute. And I wanted to just pick one of the blocks from the whole sampler itself. And that's the one that I picked. Framed it up myself per usual. Again, thrift stores are the best place to find frames, unique sizes, shapes, colors, ornate, plain. Can't go wrong. February, I had one finish. That is what you're looking at right now. This is the Bird Keeper from The Good Housewife. If you look at the original chart, I have omitted a lot and just wanted to stitch her. I used DMC colors, I know. Fabric, I have a ton of colored fabric and wanted to put her on something different, something unique. Framed her up myself in this old frame that I purchased from Hobby Lobby and love how it turned out. One of my favorite finishes, stitches in February that I completed was Queen of Hearts by Al Forrest Embroidery. The villain kits for the 4 villains are no longer available, will not be brought back. I snagged one of them, which is her, the Queen of Hearts. Omitted again motifs that would have gone along the sides of her. I just felt that it was very muddy and sort of too much. This is on the called for fabric that came with the kit. The chart itself is available, and you can buy that through 1884 Stitchery. So, love the Cheshire Cat. One thing that I did change in the cat's eyes, I added gold. I believe I used Krynic or Petite Treasure braid. And then the colors, all the threads came in the kit. And I loved the red variegation on her skirt. That was a alteration I did as well. There was lots of gold back stitch on her skirt area, and I decided to take all that off, and instead from Michael's I purchased the these I found in the jewelry aisle making, area at Michael's, and they're for jewelry. And so they actually have a hole that goes through. The extras I put in the corners of the frame. And then on either side, as the leaf petals, I attached Swarovski crystals. This heart was included in the kit, and easy enough to find something very similar if you are stitching this as just the chart. Her fan here is all beads, which I did not enjoy, but I'm happy I got it all done. So love this finish that I did. Also in February, I finished Gertrude's Garden from Just Stitching Along. Gertrude was the name. This woman here, she is my great grandmother. And so I converted this and did it in silks, I believe. Yes. This section here was a lot of initials. I took all those out and decided to stitch in Gertrude A. Addix was the last name. I wanted to frame this up with a picture of her. Luckily, I was able to get a picture of her, and I think her pose kind of is maybe where I get some of my quirkiness from. So yeah, I love this, and I'm so happy that I was able to get that finished. Another finish in February was Weep Alone from Darling Whimsy Designs. I finished this. Well, let's talk about the stitch piece first. Love the simplicity of it. I used for the gray for the tombstone and the lettering. I used overdyed to get some sort of variegation. Deep in earth, my love is lying and I must weep alone, Edgar Allan Poe. I wanted to do it on, again, some sort of fabric that just really made it pop. So found this red fabric in my stash. Wanted to finish it up in a unique way, not just a pillow or a frame or whatever. So I frayed the edges of the fabric. So I just cut really, really close and then just started pulling each of these individual threads until I liked the length. This is a wooden box I found at a thrift store that was already painted and everything. It opens up and I attached, I'm trying to remember how I attached. I may have used, I think I just used spray adhesive, 3M spray adhesive, very lightly on the back of the stitch piece, and then laid it down. I have this in my family room up near my dad's ashes, and I really like how the piece turned out. On to March. I was able to complete a Mexican sampler from Queenstown Sampler Designs. Definitely check out their patterns. Big ones, small ones, just really unique pieces. When I spotted this, I fell in love with it. I love the colors, which are DMC. It's 3 colors, 2 blues, and this peach color. When I started stitching it, I was always asked, are those the colors you picked? Yes. The picture on the front of the chart definitely got me with the colors. I was very much intrigued and loved all the little motifs in this piece. I know, shame on me, I don't have it framed up or finished. This is one of these pieces I definitely want framed up in a really tight frame. And I just do not have a frame like that in my stash, seeing that I get all my frames from thrift stores. So I definitely need to go out again, and I take my pieces with me, and I just make myself at home at these thrift stores and lay them out and try to figure out which finished pieces will fit best in the frame. This is up there again as a finish and a FFO that came perfect together and how I had it pictured in my mind. So this is Medieval Mermaid from Midsummer Night Designs. This is an out of print chart. I stitched this with Belsoise silk. It is charted for a monochromatic piece, but you could easily change that up. I wanted some sort of gray variegated thread, and I absolutely love how the variegation did come out. This being a tall and narrow piece, it can be a little more difficult while thrift shopping to find frames that do fit pieces like that. I came across this frame not too long ago, actually one of my last thrifting outings, I don't know, about a month or so ago. And it was a too goldy of a color. I loved the frame and wanted the frame to work with this piece because I like the fabric. I did want some openness on both sides. So Joe had some primer spray paint, and I said, what color is it? He's like, oh, it's like a grayish color. I said, perfect. So this is just a primer color. I did it really lightly. And so down here at the bottom, you can see some of the gold that is still peeking through. And yeah, I really, really love how it came out. Before I show you this piece, I had another finish in March. Fantastic Mr. Fox. This was a chart off of Etsy, and I stitched up for a good friend of mine for her sister's birthday. I love doing commission pieces because they are usually something that I myself would not stitch. So I do find them enjoyable. And so yeah, she loved it, and I was able to send that out, all framed and finished by me. Jenny Bean Halloween sampler from Shakespeare's Peddler. And I really like how this came out. I changed out the border, and the black all the way around is étoile thread. First time using it, and I really, really like it. Very subtle shimmer. These are the called for colors. When this chart first came out, there was a sampler pack that you can find every so once in a while, but it's definitely hard to find. So when the chart was re-released, the designer included DMC colors-ish. I believe I used some of the over-dyed threads to get some of the variegation like you can see in the house. And I definitely love the color assortment for the alphabet. That is how it is charted out. I cheated. This whole section here, Jenny Bean 1824, was supposed to be filled in. Did not do that. Love the weeping willow and this little grave yard around the mouse and the bonefish. are squares that are all stitched in, but I decided to omit that. And yet again, I do not have this framed up. But again, it's one of those, it's not a weird size, it's a perfect square, but just finding the right frame that will complement it nicely. This here is, lost my spot, In Her Garden by Lucy Beam. I could always just read it too. Loved this cute little finish. I actually finished this while I was in Hawaii earlier in the year, so that was fun to have a finish while on vacation. Used the called for colors, which were, oh, I know some of them were over dyed. So her dress is actually made up all of specialty stitches. And yeah, love her. Now what she is housed in is a album book, scrapbook. I will link it down below. I got it off of Amazon. Comes with the black kind of thicker paper, and as much as I want to frame or pillowed or flat fold all my finishes, I just don't have the time nor the room. So I decided that I can put all of my smaller finishes in a album. I have it labeled, and then I can flip through them. This small finish here is Belladonna from Darling and Whimsy Designs. The designer is coming out with a set of medicinal plants, and I definitely want to stitch them for, what else? My medical bathroom. So yeah, super cute little finish. If you look at the pattern, each of the flowers or plants are in bottles that come down. I did not want to stitch those, so I did just 3 lines of the called for brown here, and stitched the plants and backstitched in the lettering that is on the bottle. I have mandrake root on here as well, which I think was also, no, that was probably 2019 stitch, but I plan on stitching more, finishing them in a hoop design, and so I plan on putting the next one released in her series in this section, and then frame it up. So about have 3 to a hoop. Old Wick Burying Ground. This is from Not Forgotten Farm. This is a love-hate piece. Did not come out how I wanted it to. I misjudged the fabric terribly. Love the fabric that it was stitched on, a color. I definitely would not re-stitch it or stitch it. There's aspects of it that I love, but how it's just come out altogether, I am not in love with. I love the bird holding the key. I love this sort of chain link around Old Wick Burying Grounds. Love the font. I would have done the tree all in one color. Yes, it's called for 2 colors. I would have just picked one. So didn't know how to finish it, so it's just on this metal pan frame thing that I found at a thrift store, some magnets, and I have it hanging in my office, but just not a fan of how it all came together. In May, I also finished this. This is Trustworthy and True from Little House Needleworks. I was commissioned to do this piece for my friend's sister's wedding, and I really like how it turned out. The frame job, the whole thing, just really love it. Something definitely not my usual style, which was fun to stitch. This is Shake Your Tail Feather from the Nebby Needle. Love the peacock. And it did come with the rusted heart button and the little peacock feather. I definitely want to reframe this. I love this frame so much. This gold gilded ridiculousness with green velvet. Again, thrift store find. But yeah, I had this in the bathroom, but I'm going to definitely reframe it into a much simpler frame. This may have been my quickest start finish altogether. Folk Art Tree of Life by Hindsight. This was a kit where you got the bird medallion included. So all you use is just the tree, the berries, the leaves, and you do it on a certain count of fabric with 2 fret threads over 2. So then the tree is the appropriate size for the pendant charm itself. I stitched this on a Fabrics by Catherine on 1884 Stitchery. They come out of Russia, and I wanted to do it on some sort of colored fabric, but not modeled, and so I really liked the script wording behind it. This was actually a Walmart frame, I think $4 or $5, and yeah, I really like how it came out. All right, I put all those finishes away and pulled out my next group. This is G is for Gallbladder by Heartstring Samplery. Beth Twist plans on doing a whole alphabet is for medical, and you know I'm all there for that. So I have a bunch of these really small frames that I came across at a thrift store, bought them all up, didn't know why. Yeah, now I've been using them. So G is for Gallbladder, using all the called for threads. Decided to go with a colored fabric, and this is in my medical bathroom. I really adore this piece on how it came out. The stitching itself is very tiny and delicate and sweet. And then I put it in this, wrought iron trivet. This is Telling of the Bees by Island Cottage Needle Arts. Use the called for colors. Love the huge bee. Yeah, I really like how this came out. I'll go a little closer. Love the colors, just everything. Once I got it in the trivet, I knew that it needed something. So I just hot glue gunned this sort of pom-pom lace fringe all the way around. This was a focus for this past year to finish. This is Quaker Gone Haunted by Michelle Inc. I first started stitching this, actually, I believe it was this rose here. It was a restart, and I restarted stitching it as I sat with my dad his last few days on Earth. So I wanted to finish it, even though it had a, very sad and negative memory attached to it. But I loved this piece and wanted to finish it in a memorial sampler for him. So my goal was to stitch it all up before his birthday, which is in June, but I got it all finished before that. Actually, it was before the 1 year anniversary of his death, which is in August. But I got this finished a few days before his birthday in June, and I love how it came out. I left extra space down at the bottom to put his birthday and death date. And yeah, I really like how this came out. Again, framed by me, and yeah, I think about him when I see it, and love the motifs as well. This tombstone angel, I love the variegation in it. Usually when it comes to variegated thread, I'm not too concerned on doing 1x or going left to right or to see the variegation, but I definitely wanted it to be really well seen well in this piece. So I did take the time of going up and down. The naked babies themselves have variegation, which I did left to right. It's also seen on the woman, and yeah, love how this came all together. This is The Bird and the Roses by 1884 Stitchery, available as a PDF or print out. There is more to this chart that I stitched. There is this triangular portion that goes around the bird and the roses. But after I completed this, which you see here, I fell in love with just this image. And so left it to show you that if you love a pattern, but you don't love the whole thing, that's okay. You can only stitch part of it. So that's what I did here on my own design. Love the colors. Again, this was really, really fun to stitch. I loved the bright colors, and especially off the gray fabric. Had this frame once again in my stash, and I think it really complements it really beautifully. So I love seeing this piece hanging in my office. Night Alphabet by Stitchy Princess. The piece itself is stitched on black, which I contemplated, but wanted to throw in some color. Love the sun. It reminds me of the sun that's at Small World at Disneyland. I was definitely way off. I don't know what I was doing while I was stitching this, because everything's supposed to be centered, but you can see the R and S are like way out of loop, and the X and Y and Z. So this is definitely not the placement of the letters if you are interested in stitching it. But I thought it was just really cute. So I decided to do it my way, and I love it. The colors, I do not remember if I used the called for colors or I decided to be crazy and pick my own. Monster Dance Party, also by Stitchy Princess. This is just one of the 3 couples that are on the pattern, but I decided she resembles me, so I wanted to stitch her and her dance partner up. The fabric was dyed by myself, wanted something crazy, and yeah, just a quick little cute little stitch. And this is in another journal book that was gifted to me, didn't know what to use it for. So in here I am keeping my smalls that are maybe more on the dark Halloweenish sort of side. As stitchers, when you know you're going to go on vacation, you pick which projects you're going to take first, and then you decide which clothing you're going to take. So this was a finish I actually got done while in the car. I celebrated by myself. The boys did not care. This is Prairie Fairy by the Prairie Schooler, coffee dyed Ada. I used the Call for Colors, and then her hand is the actual needle I used to stitch this piece. There are others in this series which are actually can be really difficult to find. I had always liked her. I did this with a stitch along too. This was a stitch along with my friend Mary. I think she got it done before me. But yeah, I love how this came out. In the simple white frame, very neat, very clean. The Sun and the Moon by Al Forrest Embroidery, available as a pattern in my shop. It's, I don't know, it's kooky, it's kitschy, it's me. The Sun and the Moon are charted as full coverage. I wanted to add some étoile in here. This was early on when étoile had just come out. So I used orange étoile for the sun, a grayish for the crescent moon. And when I got done outlining them, I decided I don't want to do the fill-in. I love how they are just like that. I did fill in the clouds, which usually I'm not a filler-inner, but decided no, it needed fill-in, and that's just DMC, I believe. My next finish, which I do not have the framed up piece to show you, but it was this little piece, Hummingbird by Victoria Sampler. I stitched it for my grandmother and finished it up frame, sent it off to her, and she loves it. Her favorite bird is hummingbird. So yeah, quick little sweet little finish that I was able to complete as well. This I did for Joe just because. This is Key to My Heart by Bluebird Needleworks, available on 1884. I love the daintiness of it and the romantic aspect of it. The colors, really liked the design of the key and the heart. I did the called for colors and finished off in this faux wooden frame, and that sits in his office. The Quilting Bee by The Blue Flower. This was a popular stitch this year. I did not start it, but I did finish it. This was in the last Deceased Stitchers stash collection that I had purchased. Also in the stash was the chart and the threads, luckily like all put together in a bag. And there was very little left to do to complete this, so I finished it up. I have it in my album, so I need to write and attach the paper, or labeling the design. Usually not my style, but I love what it reminds me of. Got Newt by Bent Creek was a small that I stitched for the Stitchers Coven Halloween exchange. I may be inserting the final image of what it looked like, or just a stock photo, But again, really cute. Loved the little witch. And yeah, it was fun to work on. August 10th. Yes, only in August. This is 1612 by the Primitive Needle. Again, I cheated, not a filler inner. I'm taking that term. So this is all, the whole image is supposed to be stitched in, and I decided, one, no. And I really liked the fabric color, this kind of darker neutral, and I wanted that to show. Yeah, just overall really great design, and put it in my sort of Halloween dark album here to display it. I may or may not have the completed image of the next one. Santa Profile by Homespun Elegance. Stitched this for Marlene, Stitching by the Lake, for a Christmas gift. I finished this on, or I stitched on perforated paper, which was the first time, and framed it up, and I really liked how it all came together. September is when I started the commission pieces for my son's teacher. So this was the first one, When Life Knocks Me Down. Well, actually, this one was a gift to her. But this was When Life Knocks Me Down. I usually lie there and take a nap. This is from, I will link the calendar down below. It is a calendar that has sarcastic little quotes that you can stitch from. Folk Art Sampler by Bright Needle. First Bright Needle design that I've done. Again, love-hate piece. The hoop that I had it in left marks, and I did this, it's really tiny. I did it 1/1 on, oh gosh, I think that's 28. I love how it came out. I love the design, love the whole thing. Again, just kind of disappointed with how it all came out, but it's in my book, and that is completely fine with me. Royal Doodle Sampler by the Nebby Needle. When you stitch something and you finish it and everything about it is just perfect, all the stitching is where it's supposed to be, use the correct colors, the frame job is immaculate, and it's just pretty to look at. I like pretty things. This I so love. The frame is primitive and wood. First time using one of their frames. And I wasn't sure if it was gonna fit into that frame, but when I got finished and had these flowers where they were supposed to be, I laid it over and knew that that was a perfect match. Those are the called for colors. DMC, I believe, but they kind of have variegation. So whatever the called for colors are for the chart, I love it. I'm not a alphabet stitching sort of person, but I really liked the font, and I think because the letters were charted in different colors, that was completely doable. Another piece that I thoroughly enjoyed working on, this is Breath by Elena. These are kits that can be found on 1884 Stitchery. You get the chart and the wooden horn book included. I love the simpleness of the woman, and the design is just really dainty, and then you have this very elaborate wooden frame horn book that it's on. Now, when you stitch on these, you actually, the holes, then you use to stitch the fabric on. So you stitch the fabric, your finished piece, onto the wood. I was not liking the look of going in and out of every single hole, so I decided just to do one big thread stitch from corner to corner. I also used glue dots on like her face where more of the solid stitching is to hold her in place, and that completely works. So I have her hanging up. You could really frame it any way. Use this as the top, but this is the way that it was displayed, and yeah, I just love the overall look. I had some Halloween starts that I wanted to get finished in the month of October. This is Halloween by Country Rustic Primitives. That site can be found on Etsy. I used the gray and orange tone that they went with, or color scheme that they went with, but I used 1884 Stitchery silks. I think I stitched this up in like 2 days, off and on stitching. Finished it up into a pillow. You can see my patch is pretty damn invisible. So when I do pillows, I stitch the good side of the fabric and the good side of the pattern stitch piece face to face all the way around. I make a small cut on the fabric, turn it inside out, and fill the pillow that way. This is a combination of rice or extra diamond painting drills that I have left over. But rice works perfectly fine, stuff you get from dollar store or whatever. And then I try to make a patch from the fabric and line it up. This just happened to work. Some of my other ones are a little bit more obvious. But yeah, I was able to finish that. I cover the whole thing in Eileen's glue and just let it sit and dry, and so that's why there's a little bit of a sheen. But that's how I finish my pillows. I Work Hard was a piece that I stitched up for my son's teacher. Love it. Again, a lot of these little commission pieces that I stitch for her, I stitched while waiting in line for the boys to get out of school. And because it was on Ada, it's something different. And so it was fun to work on this, knowing that it was very small and I could bust it out in a couple days and get a finish in. What you're looking at now is Evanthea by Avlia. This chart is available, surprise, surprise, 1884 Stitchery. I love the colors, the design, and knew when I saw it that I really wanted to stitch it. I stitched it on a very light colored modeling fabric. I love this band design down at the bottom. The blue flower here and the matching one, and these two have some dark blue backstitching, which I really like. And finished it off in an oval frame. Yeah, really, really nice. Opus Magnuson by LDS, or Long Dog Sampler. I started this well over a year ago. I got the fabric from Needleworker's Delight in New Jersey. It's tobacco, I believe, Hardanger. And I was stitching it 1/1. I believe it's 22 count hardanger. I loved and still love this LDS design. What I stitched, which you can see in blue, is all black on the chart. I did not want to do the whole chart, stitch the whole thing. Again, trying to cheat. You can see that there's enough detail in just stitching the black, which I stitched in blue. DMC, I forget what color. And I was going to go about, stitch the whole thing, and then go back and add a second or third color if I saw that it needed something else. But I really liked this outlined look. Around the border, I cut off a whole other border. So outside of this, there was another border, and I cut that off. I just wanted to do the images. So I did the creepy men, the birds eating the grapes, and I don't know what that guy's doing. Love the detail that shows it, especially here on the square. But I was almost complete with the third block, and I talked about this on my FlossTube videos. I had just fallen out of love with this piece. People said, you know, put it away, make it a UFO. And as much as putting projects away or UFOing projects works for other people, that does not work for me. I think it's a combination of me being a progress stitcher, wanting to see items up on my wall or in my book. And if you UFO it or put it in timeout, there's a reason why you're no longer working on it. And I wanted to figure out, what is that why for me? It wasn't the fabric, it wasn't the thread, it wasn't how it was coming together. It was just the idea that I had in my head, I was no longer in love with. So I finished off the third block, finished off so then it can kind of be squared up. I thought about just framing it, but then I got the idea of making it into a tall, like, pin cushion. So I definitely want to send this out to somebody to get it professionally done. And I think it would look really, really cool. In November, I had 5 finishes. First, starting with My Crystal Ball Says Fuck Off. This was a gift that I sent to Danielle, aka Stitcherista. I was scheduled, plane ticket bought, room bought, to go to Ocean City, Maryland, early in December. Yeah. For a small little retreat. Nothing crazy. There would have been 9 of us. Sadly, that got canceled, but here I had stitched this up for her, so I mailed that off to her so she could enjoy it. Please poop at home. Very fast, very much to the point. Again, for my son's teacher. It was just funny to stitch. Mystic by Courtney Collection. This was started in November, I want to say. Or did I? No, I started this in October for Dark October stitching. And I finished it in November 10th to be specific. Second Courtney Collection pattern I have stitched. The first one was Nightmare. I had seen Mystic and was very much intrigued by this piece. The very little stitching, but very big impact. I've decided she's holding up a tarot card. Otherwise, it looks like the back of her cell phone and she's taking a selfie. I really like very little stitching, but you get an image out of it. The fabric I did this on, I'm absolutely in love with. It's this yellow, orange, purple, pink, light modeling. And I thought it was perfect. It's called Ametrine, and it's from Silk Weaver. Really great to stitch on. Really liked it, and framed it up myself. I definitely wanted to go with a slightly larger frame because I do like the fabric so much, so I wanted some of the fabric to show around her. So this was a thrift store frame that I purchased for a couple dollars, and yeah, I love it very, very much. Another commission piece. I was on a roll with these things in November. I like to party. The teacher kept this small little piece in her classroom by the bookshelf sitting area. And Cal said every time he saw it in class every day, he thought of me. This year, I released a set of 4 tiny little ornaments for Christmas, and this is one of them that I stitched up super tiny, finished in a hoop, wrote 2020 at the end, just put down a line of hot glue and pressed the fabric over. Yeah, so that is, these charts are available for PDF or hard paper. You know what I'm saying. Row, row, row your boat. So you can read. Another one, not for in school display, but it made me chuckle, and she's given me kind of free rein on, you know, thread color and anything like that. She asked if like a boat with water down at the bottom would be doable, so found something, and that's what I came up with. This had been on my I want to do list for a while, and finally decided I'm gonna stitch it. Widow's Walk by Carriage House Samplings. This was finished in December, but I started it for a new birthday start. I won't go into it too much, seeing that I just talked about it in a previous FlossTube video. I didn't have any car stitching, so I wanted to do another small little ornament. This is Merry Christmas by MTV Designs. It was in a just cross stitch Christmas ornament issue. There were a few more little motifs and elements to this pattern, but I kind of simplified it down. Sir William Black by Scattered Seed Samplings. Love how he came all together. The green variegated fabric that I stitched him on, I think, is really nice. Compliment to him. Round frame, I thought that he just fit really nice in a round frame, so don't sleep on those. If you go to thrift stores, pick up the round frames. You never know when you will need them. Kind of weird, but I stitched this as a, let's see if I can get it without glare. We'll go there. I stitched this as a housewarming gift for Charlie. If you don't know who Charlie is, you need to go back a couple of my videos. This was a whip that I had had this year. This is The Queen That Was by Ink Circles. I had started it on a dark blue fabric, was not loving the fabric, so went to this sort of mauve-y color. Called for DMC, but the tooth and the crown are gold Kreinik. And then the frame itself is from the dollar store. I didn't have too much of this left to do, and about mid-December I decided, okay, let's get my butt in action and see how many of my handful of whips I can get done by the end of the year. So yeah, I'm happy and that I was able to get this one complete. December 19th, okay, maybe it was the 18th, I decided that Susanna Jane, works by ABC. Not only is she gorgeous, she's a biggie. So going through my whips, I decided that this was something that, again, what I talked about in a video, I had stitched the piece of the pattern that I absolutely loved, so why not just end it right there? So that's what I did. Framed it up. Love this frame. It has touches of red and this green. I love the design on it, and I think it goes just really, really well with this. And posting this, I saw that many of you will be starting it in 2021. So please tag me and Arlene, of course, because I look forward to seeing your progress. And lastly, December 29th, I finished, very late December 29th, I finished Susanna Foley, Tombstone Angel. This is from Kathy Barrick. I stitched this on a 42 different dimensions on, or 2 different numbers going from left to right and up and top to bottom. I know I said I would count it, but I never did. It's like a 42 by maybe 46. So I love that the piece turned out, instead of rectangle, a square, which meant I was able to put it in this fantastic frame. I purchased this frame years ago. Definitely one of my first thrift store frame finds. It's this really heavy resin plastic. If you can see, it is padded, because what was here was kind of a fabric similar to this, but I think it was more for like a little, like, you could take a note and pin it. I'm trying to think of the word, but it's not coming to me, but it was just fabric. So this one was a little bit difficult. I had to unscrew it, pop out that fabric, which I left, and then because it had a little bit of thickness to it, I just covered it, and then screwed back on the back. I love this, and this is a perfect finishing piece, FFO, to wrap up all of 2020. I stitched this using Imperial Green silk from 1884 Stitchery Silk by Vicki Clayton. And yeah, just goes to show that, you know, you don't need to do the tombstones in grays or blacks. Pick a color, make it fun. So there you go, you guys. 49 finishes for 2020. I plan to go for more than 21 finishes in 2021. But if I am getting around 50 finishes a year, I don't remember how many finishes I got last year. But let's say I get 50 or less finishes a year, okay? Where I'm gonna run out of wall space, book space, like in 2-3 years, probably even less than that. So I look forward to seeing what I stitch. Some of my 2020 starts are planned out, but you know, I just kind of stitch on what calls me, and that's okay. You stitch what you want, whatever calls to you on whatever fabric, whatever thread. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great 2021.